大家好，我们在整个团队是在碧海蓝天、阳光灿烂的加勒比英属维尔军群岛向大家问好，也非常高兴有机会参加中国企业的海外投资峰会。那今天我们有一个非常品质或名声非常高的一个委员会，来主要跟大家探讨目前几方面非常热门的话题。第一个呢就是这个信托和相关的传承。第二呢就是我们讲的所有的在维尔金注册的公司，大家一直关注的银行服务的问题。那第三个方面呢，就是我们现在大家都在讨论的全球的数字化。那围绕这几个话题呢，现在我就来介绍我们今天的参加讨论的几位专家。So I will now really invite our distinguished panelists to join our discussion today. So the first panel is Vanessa King. She is the managing partner and head of banking and finance from O'Neill Webster. And the second is Annie Palawan. She's the partner of Rawlinson and Hunter. And the third go to a gentleman, Simon Gary. He's head of business development and marketing from BVI Finance. The fourth is Ludwig Wensenton. He's the senior counsel of Walkers. I myself is the president of Bank of Asia. I'm very honored to moderate today's panel. So probably you know that people has just seen Vanessa's presentation around that using trust for the using the trust for the succession. So that's why my first question goes to Vanessa. Vanessa, that to link to your presentation, we all know that the BVI business company is the BVI flagship product. However, now do you see that the clients started using other BVI vehicle for estate and succession planning? And if so, what has been being used and how it's being used? So currently, the trust is a big topic in Asia as well. So Vanessa, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. And it's so great to be a part of this panel and to be at China Offshore Summit again. Thank God for technology that allows us to do this. Yes, without a doubt, BVI is associated with the business company. And we often laugh that BVI means a business company in Asia. But we have seen the use of the BVI trust more and more for the purpose of estate and succession planning. A trust is a perfect vehicle for succession planning, as it allows assets to be held for succeeding generations and avoids the issue and costs that are commonly associated with probate. A settler may have assets in different parts of the world and will have to deal with probate in different jurisdictions, which can not only be time consuming, but can be very expensive. And they also will have to deal with the laws that manage inheritance in different jurisdictions, such as forced heirship, for example. A trust therefore circumvents all those issues, and especially where a corporate trustee is used. We have seen that our bespoke regime, the VISTA, is a perfect succession planning tool for the Asian market, as it combines the business company, which the market knows and is comfortable with the benefit of a trust. The VISTA trust is created with either a licensed corporate trustee, such as Rawlinson and Hunter, which Annie is with, of which there are many in the BVI, or a private trust company as trustee. The trust has an underlying BVI company, and that BVI company holds the assets that are intended to be left to the heirs of the settler or other intended beneficiaries. The assets can be held for the benefit of a number of generations, as a trust can last for up to 360 years. Lisa, BVI is a simple, clean, and effective vehicle for succession and estate planning. And therefore, we're seeing it used more and more in Asia, and we encourage the use because it works well.
Thank you. Thank you very much, because now is actually quite some discussion in Asia is emerging with the wealth started accumulation. So what are some really the good vehicle to set up the trust? But now I think thank you very much for the explanation. So associated with this one, I would like to the second question go to Annie. It's also in relation to the trust, particular the succession part you just mentioned. Because I think, for the consideration to set up the trust, it's one key factor is around how the wealth accumulated by the principal or the first generation that can be spent responsibly, particularly after the lifetime of the principal. So how trust can play this role? Any that would like to hear from your will. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa, and thank you, Vanessa. That was a very helpful opening on the trust, which obviously we, as Lisa says, administer in our capacity as professional trustee. What we see in terms of how to protect assets for future generations really comes in three parts. The first thing is that in the BVI, professional trust companies are licensed by the Financial Services Commission. So if you're working with a professional trustee such as ours, they have been through a licensing process. So clients can be comfortable that we will follow their requirements, both during their lifetimes in communications with them and after their lifetimes. The second way that we give clients comfort that we're going to follow their wishes after their lifetimes is that clients put together a letter of wishes. And a letter of wishes can be prepared at the time a trust is set up, but then refreshed and updated during the course of a client's lifetime, so that after his passing, his wishes then pass on to the trustee to give effect to during the remainder of the period of the trust. Now, the letter of wishes can say whatever the client wants it to say. It can be very prescriptive about how assets are distributed, who they should go to, and at what moments. So, for example, some letters of wishes will say that assets should be distributed when a child or grandchild reaches a certain age. Other times it will be at landmarks like upon graduation, for example. And there can be very strict guidelines about the assets being held for maintenance, for education, and not just to be spent. So a letter of wishes is very good guidance for these professional trustees to follow the wishes of the client after his lifetime. The third and additional comfort that the client can achieve is by appointing a protector to his trust. Now, a protector is often a trusted advisor or a family friend, and that protector is somebody who, after the lifetime of the settlor, works with the trustee to make sure that this professional trustee distributes the assets in the way that most benefit the family. So, for example, a protector might advise that certain assets are distributed at a certain time because they want to further the children's education. On the other hand, they might suggest that one particular child might be spending lots of money on cars or holidays and says to the trustee, perhaps it's best just to hold back some of the trust assets at the moment. So this person acts as a sense check to the professional trustee to make sure that the assets are distributed, first of all, in line with what the settlor would have wanted, but secondly, to make sure that the assets are protected for future generations. So in all of those ways, when clients put funds into a trust that's administered by a professional trustee, they can be comfortable that their wishes are going to be followed and that the overriding principle is going to be to protect the trust capital and to use it in the way that the settlor intended when he set the trust up.
Thank you, Annie. And then, really thanks for the very insightful points you just mentioned on the very detailed operation part. As we all know that, both for the new trust and also as well as the traditional BVI registered company, one of the key factor is that, how easily they can get the banking service. Be myself, I think in this banking industry that I get the feedback, also not only international, but also more people also ask that how it locally in the BVI. So along with this topic, I would like to invite that Simon being the industry, representing the industry organization in BVI, the BVI Finance. Simon, can you share us some of the update or latest development in BVI that particular locally, that the industry and the government and all the players are trying to provide or build a more banking accessibility for all the industry players we're seeing here. And Simon, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa, and thank you to the China Offshore Summit. It's great to be involved again.
Simon, I'm sorry that I think you need to raise your voice.
It's on full volume. Thank you, Lisa, and thank you to the China Offshore Summit for this opportunity. I think we've heard very, very impressive introductions from Vanessa and Annie on how excellent our trust and succession planning products are. But like any product, you need to have the support mechanism to ensure that there is no holdup in the deliverables. And one of the most important elements of that is finance and banking. And one of the great advantages we are witnessing, both in the BVI but also globally, is the rapid expansion and advance of digital banking. And digital banking could probably be traced back from a Jurassic perspective to the 1960s with simple ATM, fairly advanced in those days. But what you've seen in the past 10 to 15 years is a rapid, almost 22nd century acceleration, which has been made even more worthwhile because of the constraints of COVID and the pandemic. But one of the great advantages of digital banking is it means there is enhanced business efficiency. That obviously leads to cost efficiency or cost savings, which is very pleasing to the bottom line and ultimately to the client. You're seeing far greater accuracy with the rapid expansion of artificial intelligence. You're seeing far more limitation of mistakes and ultimately internal audit being distracted, having to make amends. You're seeing improved competitiveness. So the more banks embrace the digital product, you'll see a reduction in overall costs. You're seeing far greater speed and agility. And you're also seeing a vastly superior security. And I just want to dwell on one element, which is extremely important and something that is a globally recognized issue, and that is knowing your customer, but also in the AML sense. Digital banking can actually accelerate that process and bring down the cost by making everything faster and much more secure. So with all of those contributing factors, we're witnessing a revolution in banking. And it's only a matter of time before the more traditional system becomes redundant.
Thank you, Simon. Yeah, and along with this the digital banking, actually this is more like in the banking sector. And then what we're seeing, and particularly in Asia, is very active, is not only the banking, is the whole economy and the digital transformation. And along with that, in the financial service industry, we see a lot of new and active digital players in their respective industry, particularly now in the funds sector, and we are seeing that BVI actually quite active. So in that respect, I will invite the fourth panel, Ludwig. I know that Ludwig, your company, Walter, and yourself is really, being seen in the industry that play active role to develop the service for the funds company or other digital players in their respective digitalization in their respective industry. So can you share with the audience here what are some of the latest development, and also where you're seeing the BVI government driving the digitalization to support the some of the sector like funds or other your client space? Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Lisa, and great to be here and have the opportunity to talk about that particular topic. BVI is indeed incredibly efficient when it comes to execution, and as Vanessa and Annie and Simon have described the product, I can support that and say, listen, what we see on a day-to-day basis is the speed and ease with which you can do business here. The government has been particularly keen to support the legal framework around doing business with digitization and electronic transactions statutory framework. So that translates into everything from creating a company, as Simon already had said, onboarding and KYC, everything can be done electronically. You can do your board meetings electronically. You can execute your transactions electronically. You can sign your trust deeds electronically. You can do banking electronically. And if that's not enough, you can also do all of your record keeping and bookkeeping electronically. So what we see is the BVI being really at the forefront of the, you could call it, remote business execution. And what we've seen actually, although the pandemic, of course, has not been great for anyone, in the BVI, it hasn't slowed business down at all. In fact, it has stimulated development of all sorts of tools and execution processes that make remote business and doing remote business and managing your company and your assets remotely very, very easy. So, and all of that supported by a statutory framework, so you know that you have the legal enforcement behind it, and a government that is quite keen to make sure that that all works.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. I hope that everyone heard okay, because Ludwig, you are I saw a 1 minute break, kind of, but I think the the editor, they will fill this frame well. But thanks to everyone that I think for the audience, it will be quite informative that they are, through your conversation, they've seen that BVI has stand quite well through the pandemic, and then particular provide the most latest in terms of the development to support different industry to just grow and then very easily operate out of the BVI structure. So with that latest development, I would just actually also get different feedback and questions from the industry on the some of the question or challenge around the topic we just mentioned. So that's why I'll just for the second round. We'll back to some of the questions I've got. Still the first, let's go with the trust, the new trust structure, because Asia started talking about the trust, but still, quite, because this is new, not much track record in terms of people really seeing, all the trust arrangement has been happening. So that's why, first question, again, back to Vanessa, that in terms of the comfortable, because currently still, like in Asia, I think a lack of comfortable or confidence, really there's a trust that can work. So have you seen the change in this perception, and also that if it's a yes, what do you think has been driven the change? Thank you, Vanessa. Over to you.
Thanks, Lisa. Yes, there's definitely been that lack of comfort with the traditional trust structure, and we saw this lack of comfort with clients from non-common law jurisdictions, such as those in Asia, as you mentioned, and Latin America, because they don't understand the concept of a trust. And we're definitely not comfortable with transferring valuable assets to another person to hold on trust. Even though we'd explain that there's a robust body of legal rules around the trust and the fiduciary duties of the trustee, there is often not a great deal of comfort, which of course had to do with just the lack of familiarity with the concept. We have found that the Vista Trust has been able to break down a lot of those concerns by allowing the settler to have more control over the assets by being involved in the management and direction of the underlying company, by being a director of the company. The settler is therefore comfortable putting his assets in a BVI company, as this is something that they've done for years in Asia, use BVI companies to hold assets. So he's therefore comfortable, he or she is therefore comfortable putting his assets in a BVI company, which is the underlying company of the trust. And he's then comfortable transferring his share in that company to a trustee, as he will have control over that company by being a director, and can hold this role and direct the company until his death or until he otherwise chooses to move on and transfer that position to someone else. In 2013, the laws in the BVI were amended to allow a private trust company to be a trustee of a Vista trust. And this was a huge deal for many in Asia and Latin America in particular. So if the settler didn't want a professional trustee to be the trustee of his trust, he now had the option to incorporate a BVI company, which was a structure he was familiar with, and incorporate it as a private trust company to act as a trustee of the Vista Trust. So that would then stand above the Vista Trust and hold the shares. This allowed for even greater settler control and increased the comfort level of the client with the trust concept. We have found BVI trust companies, BVI private trust companies are extremely popular, and BVI has definitely become the jurisdiction of choice for PTCs, Lisa. So this has increased the comfort level for many of our clients in Asia and Latin America.
Thank you, Vanessa. Yeah, I mean, I fully agree with that because, you know, particularly in the emerging Asia, the comfort is really because it's new. People actually haven't seen it working. But I think one message through your presentation and the panel discussion here is that, you know, really that there has been many cases here, and if people looking at it, it's really has been well established and widely used in other part of the world. So that's certainly, I think, the message to the summit will help on the confidence part. And then on the day-to-day operation of the mean part, we know that Annie is the expert on that one. And Annie, I think I just want to hear from you that, you know, particular for the past year, with all the pandemic situation and being a BVI so remote. So in the trust and the fiduciary spaces, what you have seen emerging in the BVI for the challenges out of the past year. Over to you, Annie. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. And thanks again to Vanessa again for an excellent trust introduction. Because as you say, being trust administrators, what we do is we work with the clients who have existing trusts. And what we've seen in the last year is clients have really taken stock of their personal situation. The pandemic has really focused people's minds, I think, on what's important to them. And I think we've probably all been through a similar process in the last year of really considering ourselves and our family and just taking stock of life in general, I suppose. The pandemic has really focused people on that. And so for our clients with existing structures, what we found is that they've really taken a close look at who is benefiting from the structure, what assets are in there. And so they need to reconsider how the structure is set up. I think we always recommend to clients that they revisit their structure every few years and make sure that it's still fit for purpose and benefiting the right people. But it's one of those things that often people don't get around to. And what we have seen in the last year is people are taking a look at their existing structures, they're redefining their beneficiaries, they're adding further assets, and they're really considering very seriously succession in the light of the pandemic. Now, for people who are not existing clients, what we've seen is an increase in people coming to us and saying, I think I need to consider succession now. And I'm sure they're coming to Vanessa and asking for some recommendations about what a structure would look like. And so what we're also seeing is for the first time, people who have been nervous with trusts and nervous with setting up structures saying, this is the moment for me to consider succession and to put in place a structure that works for my future generations. And so it's really cemented people's thoughts about the future and about what happens after their lifetime. So again, we've seen clients coming to us saying, I want this thing called a trust. I hear it benefits me from a succession point of view. And absolutely right. That's an excellent way to proceed. The other thing we've seen is people beefing up the existing structures. A lot of people, as Vanessa says, haven't been comfortable with the idea of a trust. So maybe they've just had a BVI company, for example. And what we've really seen is people improving the robustness of their structures by adding a trust, by considering a professional trustee or a PTC, maybe appointing professional directors if they feel that they don't want to operate the underlying company long term. And what we've seen is an increase in services around the trust. So from a simple BVI company, you go to the structure that Vanessa described with a Vista Trust on top and a PTC and accounting services. And you find that the BVI is very well able to service all of those areas. We don't just offer BVI companies, we offer the trust and all the services that go around those. And what you'll find here is sometimes people don't realize how many services we offer out of the BVI. And the fact that we've been able to provide an uninterrupted service, as Ludwig says, partly because of the fact that we are working remotely and we're all able to work using these excellent platforms that we have here, we've been able to service all those different types of clients through the past year and really work through with them what we can do to help them get to the next stage of their succession planning. So I really see that that has emerged out of the last year, and we've been able to partner with our clients and just help them through this. It's a very difficult process. And a lot of them are now emerging out of the other side with newer, improved trust structures that really neatly address their succession requirements. So I think that's what we see now looking back at the last year.
Thank you, Annie. And I think, not only that your company and then a lot of your partners has gone through the pandemic, but so, so pleased to see that you did not only deal with the situation, but your business seems the continuity is very well managed. And then, that's the, one of really good example who has been successful in the during the pandemic. But since talking about the pandemic, we all know that, this kind of natural disaster somehow just become a very powerful driver for the fintech and digitalization. So, and then, along this line, I just want to next invite Simon to add a little bit more on the digitalization, how driving the banking, but more like the whole financial service industry, because this is the key industry in BVI. And then not only the digitalization, but the fintech innovation. So Simon, over to you. Share with us the implication for now and the future for the fintech to financial service industry. Thank you, Simon.
There's a reference that John F. Kennedy used to make on a number of occasions, and he borrowed it from a Chinese saying, and that was the word crisis apparently in Chinese comprises two characters. One is danger and one is opportunity, and that perhaps encapsulates rather well COVID and the challenges, but equally the opportunities. I think with the pandemic, it has made people realize that the vision and the energy that has gone into artificial intelligence, blockchain technology, and ultimately, we'd say digital banking or digital finance, is not only here to stay, but it's been rapidly accelerated. And I think a credit to the BVI and other jurisdictions. In the BVI's case, with Bank of Asia, they had the presence of mind to have this vision back in 1213, which was a meeting with the founder, Carson Wen, in Hong Kong, and the then Premier, Orlando Smith. And a vision started at that point, so almost prescient, almost Delphic in its ability to foretell the future. So what we're seeing now with the pandemic is the fact that it is a huge opportunity to accelerate the pace of change. Artificial intelligence is always going to be here, but it's just going to be here much, much faster and more effectively. And when I find that my almost 90-year-old mother is now able to use digital banking, that is quite significant. I think 2 years ago, I would have been in despair. But she's really got a hold of it. And if some of that age and advanced years can manage it, that's really is commendable. So I think we are very, very well placed. We've got an excellent fintech vision and a strategy. We've got an excellent integrated regulator which has been pioneering a sandbox regime. And the sandbox regime has been designed to allow a number of the more comprehensive rules to be suspended for a period of time whilst the entrepreneurs remain in that sandbox. And it allows them to test their vision, to try and apply their systems without being distracted with constant cash flow concerns. Some of them won't succeed, but many will, and many will prosper because of that very attractive business-friendly environment that is synonymous with the British Virgin Islands.
Thank you, Simon. Yeah, talking about the fintech sandbox and then the related innovation, that I would like to invite that Ludwig, probably as the last question, and then to share with the audience that, around this fintech and particularly happening in the financial service industry, where are some of the latest innovation? Well, what are the, also the key success for industry players in their digitalization journey? So Ludwig, over to you then. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Lisa. Here you can see the BVI strength actually being on display quite clearly. As traditionally it's been a structuring jurisdiction, as Vanessa and Annie have demonstrated, for instance, around asset structuring. We also spoke about digitization and how the ease of execution, the speed of execution, how that matters. And what you've seen is that as a result of that ability to respond to a fast-moving sector, the BVI has been right in the middle of the sweet spot of the crypto and other sectors, the blockchain-based businesses. So what we've seen here is anything ranging from the centralized digital asset service providers to the decentralized blockchain-based solutions, and including APIs, the software developers who can do the cross-chain solutions for their clients. People are coming here because they can structure and set up easily, do it remotely, and have, again, that speed of execution and reliability. So the government has been incredibly responsive to that. It's quite clear that it's trying to support the sort of development of the financial services sector to its next phase. So it's clearly that the on-chain digitization will continue. And the BVI, I'm delighted because as a service provider sitting right in the middle, we're on the edge and of all of the developments, and we can speak to the most innovative and most amazingly clever people that pick up the phone and say, listen, we've come up with something new yet again, and the speed with which this develops is amazing. And it delighted that the service providers here at BVI are able to respond to that, because you go around the world and not everybody likes what they don't know, but in the BVI, that problem you won't have. So thanks for answering that question, Lisa. I shall stop here.
Well, that's an excellent comment, because actually listening through the panel talk about more like what already in the past the BVI has a rich experience and knowledge, and nowadays with going through the pandemic and also facing the future with this whole global digital transformation, actually BVI as a location is well positioned and prepared that to serve the individual companies global wide. So this is actually the end of our panel, and also the message through this panel. I would like to pass to the audience there in the summit that BVI is really, I think, well positioned and prepared to support individual and the companies that, regardless which industry they are, on the assets protection, on the succession, as well as the new digital economy. This is really the location that to go. 非常感谢大家。那我想呢，大家听到了这个我们的小组的讨论之后呢，也会感觉到在 BVI 这个地方，不仅有它的历史，有它积累的大量的经验和知识，特别是呢，在面对未来，在新的大家讲的这个数字经济向下，那 BVI 呢，我们非常相信会成为新一代的数字金融中心。那我们今天的这个小组讨论就到这里。今天没有安排 Q&A， 那但是向下呢，大家可以通过这个组委会，如果有任何的问题可以reach us。